Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Jessica Fortunes. And in today's video, I'm doing something new, something different because I'm talking about books. Yay! And I'm sure that my returning subscribers would be like, Jessica, why is that a new thing? Well, it's a new thing because this time around, I am talking about frictional books, novels. Yes. In my previous videos, I've spoken about, self-help books, career books, and those are great. But imagine, we should talk about romance. We should talk about fictional books, dragons, love, marriage, all of those. And these are things that you can get only in fictional books. So that's why this time around, I'm talking about fictional books because I have been reading a lot of fiction, like from American to Nigerian to African authors. I have been reading a lot. And I figured, why would you just be reading these books or buying these books and you're not sharing them with your beautiful people on YouTube? That felt like an abomination. So I'm here to rectify that by sharing here on my YouTube channel some books that I've read recently and actually loved. Starting with Fourwing. Now, let me give you a quick backstory. Yeah. So Fourwing, if you love Game of Thrones, Merlin, Dragon movies, you definitely love these books because it's a romantic fantasy and it's a lot about dragons, it's a lot about magic. So it's very fictional, very fantasy-ish, and very sweet. Yes. So it tells us a story of this little kingdom. I'll call it a kingdom. And in this kingdom, when children get of age, just same way we go to university, they go to quadrants, right? And the quadrants, one of them is scribes, where they go to write, or they become healers, or they become dragon riders. So you can choose one or either of the three. And so there's this young, beautiful lady who had trained all her life to be a scribe that she was supposed to write. She was looking forward to spending her time in the library because when her father was alive, he had trained her to become a scribe. But then, at the very last minute, her mother, who is a general in the riders quadrant, decided that, you know what? You're not going to go to scribes, you're going to become a rider. And because, oh, this young girl was very fragile and, she wasn't trained for that hard life of becoming a rider. Oh, I should mention, riders are like the people who fight and they also ride dragons. So, like, they're very powerful people. And because this young girl, whose name actually is Violet, wasn't trained for that life. She wasn't trained for that life. She was supposed to go here, but then her mother said, no, you're going to go here because I have said it, that's what you're going to do. So she's forced to move away from the life that she had known all her life to going to this other place that she knew nothing about. And because she was, the last born, she was also very fragile. She did not know how to fight. She had no training whatsoever. Of course, she was scared. And her sister as well was scared. So it was like, oh my God, am I going to make it? Am I not going to make it? So all of us, myself and everyone who has read the book, we go on a journey towards finding out, will Violet die or will she make it? So it takes us on a journey of friendship because on that journey, Violet finds friends. It also takes us on a journey of love. It takes us, it takes us on so many different angles. Even my favorite is the fact that, the love story there is very slow burn because these people are enemies, they hate each other. But there's also so much passion because from the moment she lays her eyes on this young man whose name is Zayden, from according to his story, he's very handsome. He's a tall guy. He's charismatic. He definitely seems like my dream man. So anyway, yeah, the story takes us through all of that, how they fall in love, how she gets a dragon, if she makes it, and all of that. I don't want to give a lot for people who have not read the book yet, but definitely it was a good book. My favorite thing about the book is definitely the romance. I love romance books, and that was filled with so much romance, the tension. I was reading and I could feel the passion, the love. Ugh. Mm. Well, it was good. So I definitely loved the romance between Zayden and Violet. I also loved the story of betrayal because along the way we realized that there are so many things that Violet doesn't know. First, there are things she doesn't know even about her own family. There are things she doesn't know about some of her friends. She has friends who she trusted for a very long time who go on to betray her. And it's like, how do you cope with betrayal, right? And then it is so hurtful. I can imagine, right? Being betrayed like that. So that journey of, or the theme of betrayal is very strong. The theme of love is also very strong. Like I say, enemies to lovers, and then even love between family. How would you love your family? How would you love your child and still send her to a quadrant where she might die? I think those are my like big learnings from the book, and I actually love, I love it, and I feel like I've spoken a lot. So I'll just go ahead and give you a review or what I think or what star I would give it. For me, I would give it a 4.5. I don't read fantasy books, right? I rarely ever read fantasy books because I love easy books. But that book was a lot, but I read it and like I loved it. So I know that it was really, really good. Stay With Me by Ayobami Adebayo, a Nigerian writer and author. Let's get into it. This book tells the story of Yejide, a young woman who wants to have children. She wants to be a mother. So apparently, she had grown up without her mother. Her mother died during conception, yeah, or while she was delivering, yeah, during birth. And so Yejide grew up with her father and his plenty wives. And so she did not want one to have a second wife or have like yales and so many people married with her in the house. She didn't want a polygamous family, and also she wanted to be a mother. These were two of her major dreams, and everything seemed to be on track because she got married right after university, and then she had her own business, her hair business that was thriving, and everything was good. But then year one went by, year two went by, year three went by in marriage, and Yejide did not have a child. As you would expect, she became worried, she was unhappy, she was uncared, she wasn't taking care of herself, she was going to mountains and praying and drinking concussion and praying and following in-laws from one place to another in search of a child. But alas, Yejide was not the problem in the marriage. It was her husband. Yes, very interesting, right? Her husband was the problem. He was the one who had fertility issue. But guess what? During the course of the whole story, nobody ever questions her husband. Like years and years go by and nobody questions him. That tells you that men really get away with a lot of things. But that's not the discussion for today. Or maybe we should have that in the comment section actually. But yes, he was the cause of the problem. But you know what's interesting is he keeps quiet. Yejide goes through all the stress. He tells her nothing. Instead, he goes ahead and marries a second wife. Imagine that. He's the problem. But he goes ahead and marries a second wife, attempting to give birth, knowing that he cannot give birth. So not only was he deceiving one woman now, he was also deceiving a second woman because the point was, since Yejide cannot give birth, maybe the second wife will give birth. I don't know. Was he expecting a miracle? I really don't know what he was thinking, but that was his thought process. And then when that did not work out, you know what he did? He goes ahead to convince his younger brother to sleep with his wife Yejide to have a child. I just imagine a world where he had just told Yejide that we cannot do this, or I cannot do this because of this issue that I'm having and I'm trying to sort it out, or we can just adopt a child together or something, just talk to your wife, communicate. I feel like a lot of the problems they had in the marriage could have been resolved if they communicated. If the husband, told the truth even before they got married, and during the marriage, he could have spoken up. I feel like Ejide was very understanding and she would have understood or maybe love. She was very in love with him. They could have made it work, maybe like adopt. But instead, he betrayed her trust. He took her for an idiot. He just did a lot of bad things. And I felt very sorry and sad for Yejide. And I can imagine that there are women, even in today's Nigeria, who go through things like this. And hmm, I really have no words. But yeah, that's the story of Yejide. And I think that it was a really, really good book. So if I were to rate this book, I will give it a 3.5. Yes. I'm not giving it a 4 simply because I want my 4 to be very like gang, 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 gang. But yeah, it was a very good book. I enjoyed reading it. It was very easy to read. And the themes that he explored were very, very like strong themes. Being a woman, trying to be a mother, motherhood, polygamy, the struggles of polygamy, being a woman in today's age, trying to combine everything together, betrayal, trust, is it incest now? Yeah, it just explored a lot of themes that I think are very vital to today's world. So definitely, if you haven't read this, I really do recommend it. And if you're looking for something to read, you can pick this up. It's a good read. And the next book is A Spell of Good Things, still by Ayobami Adebayo, the same writer and author of Stay With Me. And I would say that when I picked this up to read, knowing who she is, I should have known. When I picked up this book and I saw the title, A Spell of Good Things, I was like, oh, this is gonna be a book with good ending. But Ayobami said, no, never. I don't like peace, I like violence, because that's what this book did. I really was just going on a journey. I'm like, okay, somewhere along the line, there's going to be a good ending. There's going to have victory, but all of that. But Ayobami said, no, there's no good ending. There's just going to be war and violence. And I can't lie, I was pained by the ending of this book. But then to tell you a bit about the book talks about two families, right? One family is dealing with poverty because the father had lost his job as a history teacher, and then because of that his family started to live from hand to mouth. They were struggling, and then he had two children, one of them being Eniola, and his sister, who were supposed to go to they used to go to good school. They had a good life, but because their father lost his job, they just like degraded. Like it just went down from there, and it led to a lot of other things that happened along the way and made life unbearable for them. And then even Eniola, the son, went on into political toggery, and something happened, and the ending wasn't great for the family. I don't want to tell you everything, but yeah, it was basically about, I think the big theme here is actually poverty. You know, when they say that poverty has so many children that are not really good, that's what the story of Eniola here tells. Because when the family becomes poor, they start to go to certain type of school, and Eniola starts to mingle with certain type of children. He starts to do a lot of bad things. That's when things go down for them. But imagine if they had continued to like live a good life, it probably would not have gotten to that, and Eniola would have had a better life, and his sister as well. And also, while he was talking about Eniola, it still takes us to a family that was well to do. Talking about a doctor, Wuraola. She had gone to school, she had a boyfriend, her family was doing good, everything was going good for her. But then her father got involved in politics, and one thing led to another. Again, they had a downfall there. I think my biggest lesson, or the biggest theme from this part of their story, was the theme of marriage. And then is like, marriage was just, oh, you have to marry. For a woman, it felt like, oh, if you don't get married, you're going to go through, like, you're going to become, outcast. Marriage is like, it was like a big deal. And of course I can relate to that, because everybody, even in today's world, marriage is still a big deal. And so for Wuraola, it was a big deal. And so even though her husband to be was beating her and maltreating her, she was still in the relationship because she did not want to go back and tell people that, oh, this and this was happening. She was just struggling in it. Even though I felt like she was not in love, even from the beginning of the story, I felt like she had stopped being in love with this guy, but somehow she could not just say, I'm done with this relationship. And I can imagine that even in today's world, that is still something that happens. And then it goes on to even talk about, how marriage is seen as a security for a girl, because even her mothers, her sisters, no, not her sister, her mothers or her aunties, all of them had married as a way of security. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, because different people get married for different things, but it's also a theme that was explored here. And then also political, toggery, very relatable. When you see the elections that have happened in Nigeria, how for some people politics is a game of like do or die. And this was actually very seen, and even it was now very obvious that this political toggery was a case of, when it's set to happen, or when politicians want to use people, they look for people who are poor, they look for people who they don't care, people who are in poverty, the people that they should take care of in the actual sense of it by being in political power. They don't care about them. Instead, they use them for political toggery to do their dirty deeds in the name of giving them free food and all of that. Meanwhile, they do their dirty works for these politicians. So that was also another thing that was there. And I would say that I would have given this book a 4, because it was very easy to read. I enjoyed reading it. Like, I'm a big fan of when things are easy to read. I don't want to have to be using dictionary every time, even though that's good. But like, I really just like simple read. This was easy to read, but the ending, I don't like the ending. The next book on my list is The List. Can you see that the next book on my list is The List? Hey, come on. Okay, so this book is by Yomi Adegoke, a Nigerian author, and also the author of Slay in Your Lane. This is a recent book, I think 2023 or 2024, and he talks about one predicament or dilemma that we currently face in today's generation: the misuse of social media. Now, Ola, that's who the book is about, or the main character in this book. Ola is a young writer. She's also a feminist, and a lot of her work she shares on social media. She has some bit of, should I say some bit, or she has some cloud, some social media cloud follower. You could even call her an influencer because she supports women. She writes about women. She writes about the issues that women face. She writes about sex. You know, she's a modern woman. And also, she does this thing where when men do wrong, she drags them. She tries to write stories about it. You know, she's that journalist. Somebody you would say a Twitter feminist in today's world. That's who she is. But beyond Twitter, she was actually doing the work as well to make sure that things are well, or make sure that women feel represented and heard and all of that. So she was doing a good job. And then it was time for her to get married. She had her fiance, and they were a few days or a month to them getting married in the church. And then a list is published. Yes, a list that has the names of men who had done evil to women. They had raped women, they had harassed women, they had done like a bunch of evil things to women. And guess what? Ola's fiance is on the list. He's listed there as one of these men. And as you would expect, different people expect different things from Ola. Is she going to stay with her fiance and continue with the wedding? Or is she going to end it because of what people on social media are saying, because of her reputation? Well, you'd have to read this book and find out. But I do say it's an interesting one. I love the fact that it brings to the forefront the impact of social media, and it teaches us to be careful what we do in public or in private that can come to public, and also how we use social media, because some people really just be talking on there, forgetting that there's somebody else that your words are hurting via social media. Also, it talks about the theme of trust. So your fiance is on the list. Do you trust him enough to believe that he did not do it? Or will you follow the words of people on social media and say that he did it because his name is there? Hmm? Also, it talks about the theme of friendship. Ola has friends. One person say do this, the other person do that. How do you move? Where do we go from there? Will you support your friend even though she decides to wed or be friends with somebody who has done evil? I was looking down to see if this was still on. Well, we'll find out in this book. And for me, I would give this book a solid 3.5, and I definitely recommend it. So well done to Yomi Adegoke. This was a very, very good read. I loved it. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed reading it. It was so modern. So definitely get yourself this one. And the next book on my list is this book here. It's an intriguing book, and the title is My Sister the Serial Killer. God forbid. My sister will not be a serial killer in Jesus' name. Amen. Because how do you go from there? This book is by Oyinkan. She's a Nigerian writer. Unfortunately, I cannot pronounce the name right here, but it's a very brilliant and interesting book. I feel like every literature lover or a bookstagram where or a book lover has read this book, because I'm late to the party. It's been out for a while. I think it's been out for a while, but definitely I'm happy that late than never. Better late than never. That's how they say it. So yeah, I really enjoyed reading the book, and it tells the story of Korede, the senior sister, and her junior sister Ayola. Ayola being a killer, and Korede having to help her clean up. Where do we go from there? It's like, how does Korede tell people that her sister is the one killing her boyfriends? Like, how do you make them believe? And even when she tries to tell the men that, be careful of my sister, it's like, it's like, who will believe you? And then even the story that Ayola keeps telling the story of, oh, it was in self-defense, da da da, it was this, they were going to kill me. And she keeps believing her, but then for how long? Because everybody just keeps dying. What happens to living instead of killing somebody in the relationship, you know? Yeah, this is a very intriguing story. I would give it a solid 3.5. It was very good to read. And if you're into books and mysteries, this would make for a very good movie. Just saying. Like, however, I don't like how it ended, because I'm like, there has to be more, right? There has to be more. But definitely, you have to read it and find out for yourself what happened. But I definitely would recommend this to anyone who's looking for something. I wanted to say light because it's light and easy to read, but it's also very deep in terms of killing and thinking. How do you go through this? How do you reveal to people? Are you going to tell your sister or tell people that your sister is a killer? Would they believe you? And then how does your mother deal with it, learning that her own daughter is a killer? Well, you're going to find out when you read this book. So definitely well done to the author, and I definitely recommend this book. And so that's it for today. I have more books to read and I'm pretty excited, and I'll continue to share that with you on my channel. As always, please recommend books for me. You can drop them in the comment section and I will definitely check them out. And when I read more books, as always, I will share with you. Okay, so it's like a relationship. Also, let me know in the comment section if you've read any of the books and which one of it is your favorite. Okay, all right, until next time, I remain Jessica Fortunes. Bye.